If you go back 100 years ago, right, 100 years ago, here we are just coming out of or going into the Great Depression. If you came out of the Great Depression, what if you invested in things like shares, savers, 100 years you bought just a single little average property on a low deposit, which was possible then. Now we come up to the year 2020. Where are we now? Of all those investments that you might have had 100 years ago, I would quite confidently say that the only one that would be doing extremely well is the little bit of property that you bought 100 years ago. And I've got something right here, in fact. 100 years ago, this is a house that my mother bought, right? And she bought it in 1943. She paid about £200, which is about $400 odd, let's say $500. They just sold that property in February of this year, just before the crisis, and they reached a sale price of 1.4 million. Now, from a $100 house in 1923 to 2020, it's gone up to 1.4 million. That is ridiculous. That is something like about 14,000 times its original value after 100 years. You just imagine, here we are, 7th of July, 1921. It doesn't actually say how much it was, but it's changed hand a few times. It's a quarter-acre section, and it's just unbelievable what that value is today. It's gone up 14,000 times its original value, 14,000 times in 100 years. So just imagine you bought a place today for $1 million, which would be an average similar place in Auckland, or 1.4 anyway. What is that going to be worth in another 100 years? In 2120, it will be something like about 14,000 million. So that's how you leverage your money. And this is why I believe in properties. There is still a increased factor, whether it be for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years. So if you just bought $1 million property today, in 10 years that will double by another million. Who the heck can save $1 million in 10 years? And this is the way you do it. But it doesn't cost you $1 million to make $1 million. It only costs you 20% of $1 million, which is 200,000, and in 10 years it'll be worth $1 million. That is the natural doubling of properties, in particular for the Auckland Central properties. This means that in order to accommodate another million people in 20-25 years, we have to have more housing built. So that will become a natural hub for the economy of New Zealand. People will move to Auckland, and there's going to be a lot of infrastructure after the current recovery happens, because of infrastructure work to create jobs.